All of these tools, whether it's asking people for help, whether it's asking AI to help come up with a solution for you, all of those are tools to help us at the end of the day.
Right.
And that's, for me, that's really important for me to understand now.
Yeah.
And to make sure that, I put myself first and my health. Because, if my health fails, there's not really a point in me trying to figure out all this other stuff,
Right,
So
right. At the root of everything. Yo, thanks for locking in. Today's guest is a former client of mine, Chester Lee. Chester is originally from Hong Kong, but now lives here in LA, working as a software engineer. Today, we're going to get Chester's opinion on artificial intelligence and how it can impact our everyday lives. We're also going to talk about some health obstacles Chester had to go through just to be here today. Let's vibe out.
Hey, Jyim.
Chester, what's up, homie?
Good.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. How was the drive in?
Not too bad. It's closer now than it was before.
Isn't that interesting? So you're in
I'm in Gardena now.
Gardena now, and before you were in Hollywood.
Yep.
So getting downtown, you're saying now even.
Yep. It used to be 5 miles. Now it's 15, and the 15 takes less time.
Wow.
Yep.
That is insane. Yep. I mean, that's LA traffic for you, though.
That is LA. Yeah.
That's LA traffic. So since we trained. So for anybody who knows, we trained for a few years together.
Yes, we have.
With one of my other trainers for a while.
Yep.
And definitely got strong, did some good things. And along the way, we always had some really cool conversations about your work and your viewpoint. I mean, just the small thing is that you got your pilot's license while we were training.
Yes, I did.
Right?
Yep.
Which was really cool.
Yep.
And then in addition to that, your primary function at work is, if you just want to break it down.
Yeah, it's software. So I've kind of switched around a little bit, lots of different projects. My boss likes to say I'm the garbage man. So I just kind of come in and wipe up some messes from time to time. So it's a lot of different things all happening at once.
Yeah. And so when you're wiping up messes, I'm assuming, so you're saying you're a secondary.
So it's a little bit like if there are issues that pop up, we have to make changes sometimes very quickly.
Okay.
So that those things get fixed.
Okay.
As soon as possible. And then there are other things where we're planning sort of 6 to 9 months in advance, where I kind of have to think about how do we want to break down the problem, how do we want to solve the problem, so that in the future we don't have to come back in and fix it at the last minute.
Right. Makes sense.
Yep.
Makes sense.
Yep.
So you always got to think a few steps ahead.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right.
A few steps ahead and also a couple steps back to figure out what went wrong.
Yeah. And we always have cool talks about what's going on as far as culturally and society and things like that. And I think this last time you be here, AI wasn't so big.
It wasn't back then. No, it was just completely different field. Mm-hmm. It's gotten a lot more advanced in recent months.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, as someone who has no clue about artificial intelligence and how to utilize it, today I want to really get into your opinion on it as far as the positives and the negatives, and also talk about you health-wise, things like that. Sound good?
Yeah, sounds
good. All right, cool. So the workout we're going to be doing today, we're going to have a kettlebell. I'll break it down for you, and then I'll have you choose which kettlebell you're going to work with, right? So first thing we're going to do, and I'll grab mine for this, is we're going to have kettlebell curls. So we'll grab the kettle by the handles here, and we'll go up here for curls. Each one is going to be for 10 reps. After the kettlebell curls, we're going to go kettlebell presses, right? So then after the kettlebell presses, we're going to go for kettlebell lunges. So whatever side we hold the kettle on, opposite leg is going to step back, and we're going to go down for 10 lunges on the right side and the left side. And then last, we'll finish up with 10 push-ups.
Sure.
All right?
Sounds good.
So we'll go through those. I'm going to set the clock up. We'll go through our warm-up. I'll have you pick your kettles in the meantime.
Sure.
And then we get rocking.
All right, let's do it.
All right. You can get 2 options there.
Yeah.
Warm up.
All right, so the first thing we're going to do is a squat to hamstring stretch. So we're going to sit down for a squat, and then we're going to reach down. And you get your hamstring. Yeah, so it's down for a squat, and then reach down. So I'm glad we got to catch up a little bit after this, a little bit of time we haven't seen each other.
Yeah.
And you were saying that you've been dealing with a few health issues that you're, fortunately, and I think probably because of your intent to detail, are coming out of and starting to feel better.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple months back, I got diagnosed with something called Ramsay-Hunt syndrome.
Okay.
Which is shingles, which is the same virus that causes chickenpox.
Okay.
That comes back to haunt you later on in life. And this one in particular affects my facial nerve.
Okay.
So since the last time you saw me, you'll notice that the left side of my face seems kind of frozen. So that is just because the virus attacks the nerve, makes it inflamed.
I'll go side to side.
And then, it makes it inflamed, and you take a very long time to heal that nerve.
And you said it was in large part due to stress.
It is in large part due to stress. I had a very busy last couple months, and then most of that just manifested itself into a weaker immune system, and I got hit with 2 infections at the same time. So yeah, now I'm just recovering from that. So make sure you stay stress-free.
It's such a big thing that, you know, we try to focus on a lot when we're talking about eating the right foods and exercising, and yeah, all those things are great. But if at the core of it, you're not maintaining, keeping your stress in check, none of that is really going to matter.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Was there any warning signs that you had prior to where you were like, you know what, I don't feel myself?
There were some things that made it feel like that. It was a very busy couple months, and I remember thinking, hey, maybe I need to slow down.
Okay.
And so I always thought, you know, hey, I'm just going to get through this last week. It's going to be really busy for the next week. But it kept doing that for 3 or 4 weeks. And so next time, you know, if this happens again, I'll be more proactive and sort of really making sure, hey, is this something that you can do? Is this something your body can do?
Right.
And going to the gym helps, but it's not everything.
Not everything.
No.
I mean, at the core of it is definitely that stress. If you have to pick, that's where it is.
Yep.
What you said, I think, is really something to pay attention to, and I think we all do it, is that your body was giving you signals, and then you said, that's right, I'll get to those signals next week.
Yep.
Right? So it's almost like the body will whisper before it screams.
It does.
Right.
It really does.
Right, which is a big thing. So now, after that, you've made the adjustments, right? And we'll go here. And now you're starting to feel a lot better.
Yeah.
Cool.
I ended up picking up a stress therapist who's helping me really understand what's going on and helping me manage some of that.
Right.
So that's been going well, and just trying to understand that, hey, things happen in life, in work, and just really trying to slow down a little bit and enjoy it while it's, while you're still here.
Right. And I mean, also, whatever ramification we're going to think that wherever we think is going to happen at work isn't worth our health.
Yep.
Right. So whether it's your boss yelling at you, you may feel like you're looked at as being irresponsible, whatever it is that we think, none of it is worth our health.
It's not. Yeah. And I can tell you, as someone who couldn't eat a burger for the last 2 months,
right,
every time I would bite into a burger, I just end up biting my own lip. So just that in itself, if you need to get yelled at from time to time, that's okay.
It's okay. And sometimes that's what the person needs in order to know that it's serious.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you're at work and you're like, I can't, and you go ahead and do it, then your boss or your coworker is like, oh, it wasn't that serious. Then I say, like, no, I really can't.
Yep.
And then take that moment or time for yourself.
Yep.
That's so cool that you notice those things and you're going to go ahead and make those adjustments. And I think it's important for people to know. So now kind of getting into software engineering.
Yeah.
If you could give me an idea of a project or a particular instance where it could end up being more than you thought, right? So whether it's, I don't know, maybe a website or like a virus or something like that within that, you could go in thinking it's one thing and it could end up being more, correct?
It is, yeah. It's something that
Exercise.
in the industry we like to call scope creep. So a lot of times you said, oh, I want to do A, B, and C. And you think that's it. So you plan for A, B, and C. But then someone else comes in maybe a month later and said, oh, well, you guys forgot about D, E, F, and G. And so you start having to redesign the whole thing but you don't have the time, you don't have the resources to do that. So you kind of have to think about this even before you get to that ABC stage. What happens if someone were to add things? And you really have to think about, how do you design this for scale, for functions? Like if you need to add things later, what does that look like? And you want to make it so that it doesn't take you a lot of time, or you don't have to start from scratch again.
We'll go here. We'll go with curls next. We'll curl. We'll go 10. 10. 9, 8, 7, 6. We'll get 5 more. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And then we'll press up for 10. Yeah, and I'll right there.
Yep.
There you go. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. It's funny. I think, with life, there's a lot of like foundational things. We'll step back with the opposite. Like, so planning is big, right? Yep. So even in terms of, we're talking about like health and managing stress, we're talking about saying you can't do something, but that's going to be in large part to you making sure you're putting preventative measures in place.
Absolutely,
right?
yeah.
So if you're trying to take care of your health and managing your stress, it's like, okay, let me make sure I do everything so I'm not rushing and cramming in the last minute.
Yep.
Right? And then understanding that you're going to be some rushing and cramming, but you just want to mitigate that as much as possible.
You want to mitigate it. If you can plan for it, plan for it. And,
right.
Like something that I've started doing is trying to understand what I'm going to do maybe a couple weeks in advance. Just put it all on a calendar. That's what I've been trying to do to manage everything.
Yeah.
And, it helps because at least you can be prepared for it.
Yeah. So it's almost like scheduling yourself.
Pretty much, yeah. And something I've started also doing, don't just schedule, like if you need to do something for an hour, don't just schedule an hour. Schedule an hour and a half. Give yourself a little bit of buffer.
So even between work and 1, then we get 10 push-ups.
Yep.
And that correlation is, if let's say I have to go and get my car washed and do some other things, in addition to that, just like if you're doing a project and you're trying to do some troubleshooting and you figure it's going to take you an hour, schedule an hour and a half to 2 hours to give yourself more time.
Yep. And, we live in LA, so there's always going to be traffic too.
Yes. Yeah. In addition to that. So do you guys use artificial intelligence at your job at all
We have started to think about doing that.
Okay.
I've sort of done it on my own projects and tried to figure out, hey, what's the hype all about? But yeah, we're starting to look at it at work too. So, for example, one of the things that we do is taking applications for life insurance.
Okay, so you take applications for life insurance. Okay.
Something people want to know is, hey, am I even going to qualify for this? What's the best product for me? And it's hard for you to do that without going through the whole process. And sometimes that takes weeks or even months. So we want to avoid that and say, hey, if we can have an AI learn all the different possibilities, maybe we can provide something to you of value way earlier than that. So we're trying to use AI as a tool,
okay,
to help us in the decisions that we need to make as human beings.
So you guys use it only for some level of predictability?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yep.
And then now, do you think that could be useful in everyday life? Whether it's like, just a mom or a dad who their regular job doesn't include so much technology, but we're just talking about like, let's say you're a nurse or you guys work in a factory, something very like a regular type of job, and you want to plan out grocery shopping or you want to plan out projects for the kids, whatever. You think AI could be used that way as well?
Yeah, I think there's a lot that we can start utilizing it in our lives. I think something that we need to keep in mind is that humans are designing this. So it's only ever going to be as good as humans can think of it to be. So if there are faults, a lot of times it's because we put those in there. And that's something that, in regular software engineering, we run into all the time.
Right.
Where you just kind of have to understand if this program has an error in it, it's probably because you or someone else put it there by accident or on purpose. So that's something to be aware of with AI as well.
Right. So it's not like you just want to mindlessly use AI to figure out what you're doing on a day-to-day basis.
Yep. And it's important not to have it teach us. So, for example, right now, if you talk to Siri, there's a certain way that you talk to Siri or Google or Alexa. We want to, with predictive AI, we want to get rid of that barrier. So like you said, it's easier for parents, for our grandparents to speak to it or somehow ask it things and get back real answers in response. But, we don't want to get into the habit of formulating our thoughts around it.
Use it as a tool versus we use that as like the source to govern us.
Correct.
We use it as a tool.
Correct.
So what I'm hearing is like something I think could be cool is in tying it back into managing stress, predictability, project management, is if you do you think it could be used in a way if, let's say, I know I need to plan out my food, I need to fit in my workouts, I need to fit in time to meditate, and I need to fit in time to do a project for work. I could input that and it could probably throw me a schedule back.
Yep.
Get out of here.
And the coolest thing about this,
Okay.
the coolest thing about the newest sort of AI technologies is we don't know how it happens. You feed it a lot of input.
Okay.
And the training that it goes through, it's kind of like us at the gym. The training that we give it is, this was good, this was bad. We mark it. This result I want, that result I don't want. And from there, just like how you don't fully understand why your body starts to pick up these habits that you teach it, it can kind of feel the same way with AI. Like, we don't know exactly what it's trying to figure out. We just know at the end of the day, this is the result we want, or this is the result we don't want.
So you could so that's how you can use it as a tool. It's putting in those results that you want. Right. And then as it gives it back to you, and I think we talked about this even before, where you said you can say you made a mistake or AI, this is not exactly what I wanted, and then have it make those adjustments.
Yes, it will. Yes,
that's
it will.
Cool.
Yeah.
I will go back to the curls. So we're here, and then we got 10 curls. 8, 9, 8, 7. Well, you didn't lose too much strength. You still look good, man.
I'm still doing okay. I still try and, stick to the gym from time to time. But hey, now that I know that you're actually closer than I thought,
maybe able to get some extra workouts.
Getting some form back would be nice,
Oh, yeah. Good. And I think it's really cool to understand the importance of balance, right?
Yep.
And you mentioned this, and I've been trying to emphasize as much as I can, is working out is important, but it's not everything.
Absolutely.
Right? Just like when we're talking about artificial intelligence, workouts will be used as a tool.
Yep.
Right? So that mindset, I'm going to go and get a bunch of abs and get ripped. It's like, well, that could completely negate your quality of life.
Absolutely.
Which is super important.
Yep.
Right?
Just like if every day was, arm day, you didn't give your legs any chance,
Right.
You're going to end up with like an upside down triangle.
Right. That's very true. 2, 3, 4, 5. We get 5 more. 4, 3, 2, and 1. Then we'll get 10 push-ups. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Good. I think for me personally, what I've been using for, I think it also helps with small businesses, is we have a end goal of, let's say, making more money, right?
Sure.
You want to drive up the revenue, things like that, cut down costs. So I think for people, and there's so many small business owners out there, what do you think are some ways AI could be used to meet certain, like, let's say, KPIs, or maybe even help you set your KPIs, your performance indicators?
Yep. You kind of just hit it on its head. Something that the AI can do is, we're not experts at everything, right? You're an expert at knowing how to run a fitness session.
Yeah.
You're an expert. I mean, you've been in this industry long enough. You're an expert at how to run like a fitness studio.
Right.
But there may be things, if you wanted to branch into something else, if you wanted to somehow expand the business, you might not know everything about it. And AI can help us distill human knowledge, right?
Okay.
You could go to the library, borrow a book, spend 3 weeks reading it and still not quite understand
So right.
how it works. But you can have the AI tailor that information to you. So you can ask it things like, hey, if I wanted to, let's say I have a business, and that's an input. You have this kind of business, you ask it questions back, and it's what we call contextually aware.
Okay.
So as you continue that conversation, it's just like if you had a conversation with another human being, you can, after 3 months, come back and say, hey, remember this conversation we had 3 months ago? And it'll remember that. And that's the most powerful thing about today's AI is it can draw back on its previous conversation with you and really get to know you kind of as a person, how you communicate, and how it can best communicate with you.
So it can actually start to learn and understand your patterns, things you're thinking, and even give you better suggestions into how, into decisions that are more conducive for your lifestyle and what the accomplishments you want to get to.
Yep.
Wow. Is there any one that you suggest particularly? So if I wanted to start using some level of artificial intelligence, is it an app that I want to download? How would I go about this?
So you have apps these days. I'm sure you and a lot of other people listening to this or watching this, you may have heard of one called ChatGPT.
Yes, I heard of ChatGPT.
So that's the big hot one right now. And that's a very easy way to get into it because you're just typing. It's just like you were typing to, another human being, let's say like a support channel for whatever company. You're typing into it. You're basically text messaging it, and it will try and remember each conversation you had.
Right.
So you could ask it, say, hey, I want to travel to this place. Give me some recommendations if I like museums, if I like, art, and it'll tailor that to you. But you can also ask it more theoretical questions and try and poke its mind. And it's a pretty safe one to play around with because it's mostly just text.
Okay.
So that one's the easiest to get into.
That's the easiest one.
You can download it.
You can just hit ChatGPT in your search engine. And
it's on the App Store. It's also at if you just Google ChatGPT, it's from a company called OpenAI.
Okay.
Which they're doing a lot more stuff. So the original thought behind ChatGPT, they slapped a chatbot on top of what's known as GPT-3. Now there are more versions of it, but GPT-3 is what was the original sort of engine or brain behind it.
Right.
So you're just giving it different inputs, and it gives you different outputs.
You know what this made me think of as you were talking, and that's why I like to keep these conversations just as organic as possible, is I have one client that is dealing with a bacterial infection, and when she went to the doctor, they prescribed a certain remedy like antibiotics, right?
Sure.
So these things. But then now we know with some of these remedies, it could kill the good bacteria as well as the bad bacteria. So what we tried to do is have her see a holistic doctor, a holistic health coach, and okay, let's try a natural way first for a month, just see if we could have some improvement. And if that doesn't work, then we can go to the medicine, right? Sure. Commercial medicine. So I'm saying all that to bring it back with yourself and things that you're doing with managing stress and now trying to build back up your immune system. Do you think you could put into ChatGPT, hey, I'm allergic to this, this, and this, but what do you think are the best foods to help boost the immune system? And for your particular case, as it gets to know you, it could do things like that.
Yeah, it absolutely can. It synthesizes human knowledge and human opinions.
Okay.
So, for example, you could ask it. Let's say, for example, I was taking some medication for my shingles, and there was a term that I didn't quite understand, and it can be as simple as pretend like it's a dictionary, but it can explain it to you in the way that you understand it.
Okay.
So, I can remember exactly what it was, but I asked, the chatbot, I said, hey, does this mean I can't take both of these at the same time?
Okay.
And it was actually able to...
You actually asked the chatbot this?
Yeah. So it's not just, plain old advice. It's not just opinion, but you can say, hey, what does this actually mean in the context of, say, these two medicines, for example?
Yeah.
Obviously, you should still verify with your own research.
Right.
Again, it's only as smart as the humans behind it.
Right.
So, but it is able to understand knowledge way faster than you or I could understand.
Ever get to, right.
Yeah.
And possibly. We'll go back to the kettle. That's cool. Then we'll go back to the girls. We got 10. 10. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. They're up. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Then we got the lunges. So, question for you, as you were going through figuring out, dealing with your medical issue, how much did you just take what the doctor said, and how much research did you do personally? If you had to put like just average pace, like I listened to 90% of the doctor said, and 10% I did my own research. And it doesn't mean that you didn't end up going back and do what the doctor said, but you did your own research. How much do you think was percent?
I think it was maybe 70-30 for doctors and my own. Like I like to be prepared, so I had an idea of what I had when I, showed up at
you already
urgent care.
had an idea. Oh,
yeah,
of course.
Yeah, because, I'm like, okay, well, first of all, it's not a stroke because I'm not dead.
Right.
But there's a lot, that can manifest in this. So I wanted to be sure. And actually, I had read that it could be shingles.
Okay.
But I hadn't thought at the time that I had it.
Okay.
And it wasn't until the doctor kind of at the last minute was like, hey, by the way, do you feel any pain anywhere? That, they were able to actually diagnose me with a reason about why it was inflamed.
Okay. So they asked you if you had any pain, but prior to you going, we'll get 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. But prior to you going, you started doing your own research.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because I wanted to figure out, how bad was it,
Right.
One of the things is when you make an appointment, it's not going to be in the next 5 minutes.
Right.
So, as human beings, we're all curious. We want to know what's wrong with us. We want to know how to make it better.
Yeah.
So, I started, reading up on what it was and how long does it take to heal. The doctor confirmed just sort of most of my research. And then for the things that were new to me, I went back and also read up about it.
So 70-30, what the doctor said, 30% of you doing your research. And what a lot of times we talk about, myself and other instructors, is that regardless of how well versed, how much credentials a doctor has, they're never going to put the level of time and effort that you are into your own body or your own condition. So it's almost like starting to use AI as part of your team, right? Mm-hmm. So it's almost like your doctor, that's a tool of information.
That can be a tool, and also something, the doctors, their offices can start using. They get tons of data from you, right? Like they get, when you show up, they take your blood pressure, they take your heart rate, they take your O2, and they can start, collecting that information and building a picture of what you look like over time. And something that, I've donated sort of time and blood and whatnot, but I've donated to a project called Project Baseline, which is run by a Google sister company. And they wanted to collect sort of the basic health information of 10,000 people across the world. Okay. So I was one of those 10,000, where you would go in for 4 years. You would go into this on-site sort of medical clinic where they would take all sorts of samples from you. So they would take some blood, they would measure your lung capacity, urine sample to figure out how you changed over 4 years. Okay. So that's interesting, and that's data that they can use, again, to feed into AI, right, and sort of understand, hey, if this person gets this disease in the future, or that person avoids that kind of disease in the future, what are the correlations there? Because there's too many combinations for us to figure out. Right. So AI is really fast at math. Yeah. So it can really quickly understand and digest all that data for us.
Yeah. We'll go back last time around.
Yep.
As you say that, what it makes me think of is a lot of times we're not aware of our days, all the things that we do that would be important to know and keep track of, right? So, 5, 6, 7, 2 more.
Yep.
9 and 10. Then so it's like kind of taking this whole approach of, and when you said that about gathering that information, a lot of times when we're dealing with medical instances with our health, it's looking back at trends, which is insanely important, right?
Yep.
And I want good lunges. So it's like, okay, if this happened 8 out of 10 times, chances are this is going to happen.
Yep.
Right? So now if we start using artificial intelligence to kind of, and what I really like, and I'm going to kind of go back on that I want to use it for is is AI starting to get to understand you, your tendencies, your habits.
Yep.
So if it could point out patterns we're not even aware of, right? So something as simple as like me saying weekly my energy level after I do this particular thing is at a 3 and I ate these particular foods, these things could have contributed to where I am.
Yep.
Right? So what I think would be a good thing, and I'm sure just like one thing we have in common is our love and endearment for data.
Yep.
Right?
Absolutely.
So there's so many answers within that data as far as how many hours you're sleeping, what you're eating,
Yep.
where your stress level is, what you're doing for work, and kind of starting to use AI to almost open that kind of internal type of intelligence you have
Absolutely.
to pay attention to yourself.
Yep. And, you know, like, as you said, we generate data, whether you like it or not. We generate data 24/7, right?
Yeah.
It's
right.
whether or not we collect it and decide to learn about it.
Right.
So it's there.
Yeah. There's 10 push-ups. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Good. Is there anything that now that you're paying more attention to that you didn't before?
I think definitely just the time management, you know, like
Okay.
we have so much time a day. And whether it's delegating certain tasks to, say, other people, if you manage people at work, or family and friends, just talking to them, or even, you know, a tool like AI where, hey, I don't have time to figure out how I'm going to do this at work. Let's say I have a problem. I don't know how to break it down. I can have the AI give me suggestions, and then I can choose to follow up on that. But a lot of it is, you know, there's only so much time we have in our day.
Right.
And something I've learned sort of throughout this whole healing process is really understanding and giving time back to yourself, right? So all of these tools, whether it's asking people for help, whether it's asking AI to help come up with a solution for you, all of those are tools to help us at the end of the day.
Right.
And that's, you know, for me, that's really important for me to understand now.
Yeah.
And to make sure that, you know, I put myself first and my health. Because, you know, if my health fails, there's not really a point in me trying to figure out all this other stuff, you know?
Right,
So
right. At the root of everything.
Yeah.
At the root of everything. If
Yep.
your health fails, no matter what task you thought was important, it now
it's not important
is
anymore.
not important anymore.
Nope.
Because you can't even get to it anyways.
Absolutely.
I love that. And I think just even for myself, just recently, I've been prioritizing just getting to sleep at a certain time.
Yep.
Because I think, and I'm sure you felt this way in the past, where it's like, I want to knock this out. Because
Oh, yeah.
Ambition it's almost like, if you don't learn how to manage that thing, it'll kill you, right?
Yep.
Like, especially when you're a person like loves to get things done. It's that almost that understanding of like, instead of looking at a 24-hour period, looking at a week-long
Yeah.
base, right? So
Yep.
it's like, if I can't get it done Monday, I still have Tuesday,
Yep.
right? And like now putting sleep and time to relax at like the head of your pyramid, and then your other to-dos right underneath. And if you're a person that is ambitious, it'll take care of itself. You don't have to
Yep.
try to be that way.
Yep.
Right?
Because you will try and, you know, become better every single day. That's something that, you know, with ambition, you'll get there. But in order to get there, you need to make sure that your body isn't physically stressing out over other things, right? Like if you're not taking care of it, that's one less thing you have to deal with.
Yeah.
So if you look at it from a to-do list perspective, it's kind of like every day at the top of your list, you know, you make sure you prioritize yourself.
Yeah. And then essentially that you're operating at your optimal self. Because something that your tired self may take 3 hours to do, your fresh self may only take an hour.
Yep.
Right? So you end up saving that time at the end of the day in the long run anyways.
Yeah. And it can be as simple as, in the middle of the day, if I get stuck on something, go outside for 5 minutes, take a walk, come back, and sometimes you'll figure out, oh, that's what I did wrong.
Just leaving it.
Just leave it for 5 minutes and come back. Yeah.
And that's huge. I think that's something that really needs to be understood from someone like yourself who has this pilot's license, who is working in engineering and has these jobs and these projects and all these things. As someone like yourself with all these demands understands the importance of saying, hey, I'll get back to this.
Yep, absolutely. And yeah, like you brought up with flying, we're taught when we learn how to fly, you're taught you have so much capacity that you can handle.
Okay.
And as events happen during the day, maybe someone yells at you at work, your capacity to be able to meet that challenge goes down. Right? And if the challenge gets more difficult, so let's say the place I'm flying to suddenly has a cloud or some weather that I have to avoid, that increases the difficulty.
Right.
And at some point, if your capacity is lower than the difficulty that's needed to meet that challenge, that's when failures happen.
That's
when accidents happen. Wow. So that's something that I sort of brought over from flying, is really understanding, trying to be aware at what both those levels are and see what you can do to manage them.
And I think if you're not aware of that, you may think I was trying my hardest, I was focused, but you weren't aware that your level of production and efficiency was gradually decreasing because of just your overall human capacity to be able to perform.
Yep. Like if you're tired, if you're sleepy, that knocks it down.
That knocks it down.
Yep.
And then the failure happens, accidents happen, things like that.
Yep. And you could have been trying right up there, but you couldn't go any further because that was your maximum.
Right. And at that point, effort doesn't even matter.
Exactly.
Wow. Man, well, I really appreciate you coming down.
Yeah.
This conversation was great.
Absolutely.
And we have to keep on building on this at some time in the future.
Absolutely. Yeah, this was a great workout, man.
All right.
See you next time.
See you next time.